Okay, welcome everybody to today's Solution Spotlight. I will give it about a minute or so before we really get things kicked off. But in the meantime, Becky, Wade and I were talking about his Memorial Day plans and what his weekend looked like. What did you do for Memorial Day?
I hung around the house. I had just a very quiet weekend home and a little bit of parenting work and, bringing kids to rehearsals and things like that. But it was a very low-key weekend and I loved that.
That sounds like almost the opposite of Wade's weekend.
Very hectic.
I coached a bunch of Little League baseball games.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was fun.
My kids are a little older than yours then.
Okay.
Some baseball games. I think it was the what, championship? Is that what you were saying?
We had 6 games. And Memorial Day is a really popular baseball weekend.
Got it.
Weather's good and it's really fun.
Yeah. I love that. I'm a baseball nut, so I'm excited that it's coming back.
Yeah.
Good one. My team is not the best team, but we still love them, the Angels.
Well, I'm a Cubs fan since birth, and so that's in terms of not being the best team, of just one season of excitement for me in all my life. So
Yeah, likewise. Wade, who's your favorite team?
I live in Utah. We don't have a home team. We actually do have a AAA team for the Angels called the Bees, which we like. But I've always been partial to the Boston Red Sox. They had an awesome playoff run when I was growing up, and have always cheered for
Yeah. I uh I don't think that we can be friends.
them. All right,
Just
start us off on a good note, sir.
all right, sounds good. Well, welcome to today's Solution Spotlight. Thank you all for joining us. Today's Solution Spotlight is around too much data, not enough clarity, how to simplify that client conversations with Elements. My name is Sarah Williams. I am XYPN's Senior Partnerships Operations Manager, and joining me today are Wade Anderson, Elements Chief Executive Officer, and Becky Walsh, founder of Oak Maple Finance. In this session, Wade and Becky will be sharing how XYPN members are using the power of elements to simplify planning, guide better conversations, and move clients forward faster. Before I turn it over to Becky and Wade, just a couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, so the recording will be available on our website in the next day or so. If that is something that you are interested in revisiting, rewatching, or just yeah, if you have to leave early, then by all means, this recording is available to you. And then Q&A, there is going to be time at the end of the presentation to answer any of your burning questions. So as they come up, by all means, please drop them in the Q&A tab, not the chat tab, but the Q&A tab below. You can upvote questions as appropriate and just drop them as they come up. You don't have to wait until the very end of the presentation to raise your hand or anything like that. We will be able to get through them. And then if not, I'm sure that we can find the answers for you afterwards. And then next, we have one upcoming event that we don't want you to miss, and it is Marketing Your Firm. Here's how to stay on the right side of the SEC. So that is a hosted XYPN event, and it is happening tomorrow, Wednesday, May 27th. I will drop the registration link in the chat. And then last but not least, XYPN Live, one of my favorite times of the year, is heading to San Diego in September 2026, the last week of September, to be clear. So I will also drop the registration link in the chat, but please grab your pass. You get to meet some really awesome vendors, some other like-minded advisors, folks that might be in the network, folks that might not be in the network, but it's just such a great embodiment of the XYPN community. So you don't want to miss it. And that is it for me and my spiel. Becky, Wade, I will let you take it away.
thanks, Sarah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sarah. I'm gonna share my screen here. Becky, can you give me a quick thumbs up if it looks good on your end? Okay, awesome. Well, we're so grateful to be here. Thank you to the XYPN team for inviting us to present this webinar. And a special thank you to Becky, who is one of our users of Elements and has been a big fan of ours and co-presenting with me today. Um, just just to give you kind of an idea of what we're going to cover today, Elements has been around for a few years, and it may be familiar with some, all and maybe brand new to others. So I'm going to do just a quick refresher of what Elements is. It's a different tool than I think many other tools out there on the market. So we'll talk you through kind of the Elements methodology, what makes the tool special, and a little bit why we built it. And then for those that do have followed the Elements story, we did have kind of a relaunch of our business. So I'm going to talk about that briefly. And that's led to a new partnership agreement with XYPN with some simplified pricing and a simplified partnership structure. And then I'll turn the time over to Becky, who will show you how she uses Elements in her practice at Oak Maple. Um, which will, I think, be really the meat of the presentation as far as how Elements is used, how it can help simplify conversations with clients. And then we'll wrap up with just what's coming in Elements. We have some exciting new things we're building. Actually, our first new element in over 4 years, which I'm excited to talk about. Some more customizations and integrations. Please leave any Q&A in the comments, and we'll address them towards the end or live if it is fitting with what we're talking about. So Elements is a different approach to talk to clients about money. Our founder, his name is Reese Harper, and he developed this way to track someone's finances in this scorecard-looking view. And all of these are ratios that present a scorecard to show the health of someone's finances. So there's 11 ratios, soon to be 12, and they go from a savings rate to an element we call total term. And what we use these for is they help us to have conversations with clients to visualize where they're at in a holistic manner in their finances, not just tracking what's your net worth or what do we project your net worth to be, but are we taking the right amount of risks? Do we have, as far as equity is concerned? Oh, sorry, something going on here. As far as equity is concerned, insurance, and then are we spending our cash flow wisely from savings and spending? I'm sorry, one second. Let me just figure out what's going on with this. Just give me 1 second here. Okay. Sorry about that. My browser kept popping up. Just had to uh, kill the process. So Elements allows us to see all of someone's finances in this scorecard view, which presents a really nice visual. This allows to have shorter meetings, make it easy to talk through decisions, and weigh the pros and cons of, oh, do we cut back on some liquidity? Is there opportunity to move assets to qualified? And what this has allowed at this point now hundreds of advisors to do is to build a really nice, repeatable process, a consistent way to onboard, to review someone's finances, and to track progress with each client. And this is kind of what we mean by a simpler way to talk about money, taking kind of all the noise that can come from someone's finances and distilling it down to a set of ratios that we can track and then improve on over time. The comment there's often when we're showing someone Elements, there's this question of, okay, but where does this fit in? So I've boiled this down to three primary use cases that come up when we talk to advisors that Elements is a good fit for. And I want to be honest about it. Elements is not a good fit for everyone's practice. Where we do tend to work well is if you're working with accumulators. If you find that a Monte Carlo or cash flow based planning is maybe overkill. It maybe creates more complexity, or someone's just earlier in their career and projecting out a couple decades into the future just isn't as helpful of a look for them. Elements can help simplify that conversation and say, where are we at today? And where are we trying to go in the next year from now, in the next 6 months from now? How can we move our savings rate or our burn rate things that can then have a material impact on where our projections will go into the future. But especially with accumulator type clients, those small changes can have really massive outsized impacts. So that's kind of use case number one, working with accumulators. Number two, that is very common is if you're doing some sort of 401k retirement business, you're working with employers, Elements has worked really well to work with plan participants in a very scalable way. So we have a lot of advisors that will use this as a financial literacy add-on or some sort of let me work with more employees, add something to the 401k program that I'm running for you. Elements helps make it so there isn't a lot of work on a per plan participant basis in a way that if you were going to do a full financial plan for each plan participant, it would just be far too much work. And the final common use case is a coaching service model. We have a lot of advisors launching a lower priced, often as a subscription price offering. They want to use technology to provide a great experience for their clients, but not in a way that creates a lot of work for them, again, because they're trying to keep their service model costs low. Just to drill into this a little more on methodology, Elements you can think of as not just a technology or a tool. In fact, when I meet with people and I show them what our tool is, and I say, if you really like the methodology, but you don't quite want to pay for the software yet, or it's just not something you're ready to adopt for more than a couple of clients, I'm happy to share how we started, which is as a spreadsheet. Elements is, again, a way to diagnose quickly with these standard set of vital signs. And where we land for people is there's four kind of main questions we try to answer really quickly. Are you taking the right amount of risk? Are you using your income wisely? Do you have the right mix of assets? And how much wealth do you need to make work optional? The Elements scorecard helps us answer each of those questions so we can diagnose where someone's at akin to you can think of meeting with a medical doctor and getting a blood test. You're having a set of vital signs. We use that word deliberately here to kind of harken to that metaphor. We use those vital signs to then help figure out, okay, what's the right next step in our journey? Is the right next step in our financial journey? Do we go to an MRI? Do we need something really intense as far as let's do a full financial plan? Or maybe we just need to look at our tax rate and there's some simple tax planning things we can do. Elements is meant to be this kind of quick diagnostic tool that we use upfront with clients, upfront with prospects to figure out where they're at. And that's the core of what we're trying to accomplish with Elements methodology. So just a couple comments on Elements relaunch. Elements was a venture-funded startup that started in 2021. The idea of Elements had been incubated for many years before then, but it spun out of an RIA called Dentist Advisors in 2021. In December of this year, if this is for people that have followed the Elements story, Elements was actually sold, and the buying group was the former management team, which included Reese Harper, who is the original founder of Elements, and I also had worked at Elements during its startup phase. So we were really happy to reacquire the assets of the business from the shareholders and others that had invested over time. And what we're excited about now in 2026 is we're very much in this stabilize and rebuild. We have a leaner team. We're super product focused. In fact, almost all of our resources are going to building product right now. So if you've seen Elements before and you like some things, but it was missing some integrations or something, we hope you give us another look as we are excited in this kind of relaunch V2 phase of the business. And in that same spirit, what we're excited about is, and many of you probably saw an email that walked through this, we've simplified our pricing and our partnership with the XYPN organization. So previously we had a complication around how many clients were on your ADV. Now there was some reasons behind that, which I won't get into right now, but the sum of where we're at today is we've completely dropped that requirement. So it's a much simpler structure. It's free to try out for all XYPN members up to 5 clients. So you can have 5 clients or prospects in Elements system and just try it out and see if it's something that vibes with your approach and how you like to work with clients. From there, we have an Elements core product which I'll get into the feature difference, and then an Elements Pro product with different prices at 99 a month or 199 a month. All of this is on a month to month, is on month to month. And just to kind of break this down, as the Core and Pro is a little bit new. Core includes all of the core features of Elements. This is our one-page plan, the scorecard, the client list, assessments, goals and tasks. What is included in Pro is when you want to use Elements in a more ongoing planning engagement. So this is account aggregation, AI-assisted assessments, in-app client messaging. Those all move to the 199. If you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out. We're happy to work with you. And then for anyone that was at our previous 149 a month tier, we are going to grandfather you into that, so no pricing will change. So for anyone using Elements today, you should not have a change in pricing other than going down if you're able to go from the 199 that you're at today down to 99 if you don't need some of the Pro features. And again, I'm happy to address any of this in Q&A or offline if you want to send me an email. Okay, with that, I want to turn it over now to Becky. Becky has been a longtime user of Elements. When did you first adopt Elements, Becky?
I think in 2022, I saw Wade do a webinar for NAPFA in 2022 and adopted it very soon after.
Oh my gosh, so going on 4 years. Or over 4 years maybe. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead. So
sorry,
yeah, so I've been using Elements since 2022. I've often said Wade had me at hello. I'm sorry, Wade Reese.
Reese.
Reese just showed up on the screen with the name Wade there. So hey Reese. Yeah, so I often say that Reese had me at hello with Elements. I've been looking for a way to help clients in that accumulator phase ever since I entered the profession nearly 20 years ago. And Elements was one of the missing pieces that allows me to help those accumulators. I immediately adopted it and found that it's not just my accumulator clients who love it. Some of my biggest worrywart retiree clients love it as well. So in the use cases that you listed there, Wade, I have the accumulators and then I have the coaching model. So Oak
Oh, awesome.
Maple also, when Oak Maple was founded I got my numbers wrong. It was 2022 is when Oak Maple was founded. 2021 is when I started using Elements. The one of the founding principles of Oak Maple was that we would be offering a subscription-based financial planning service for high earners, not rich yet, or even one stage before that, the earners wanting advice now. So we are using Elements in a financial coaching aspect as well. So I can share my screen to show a little bit of how I go about using Elements. And please, Wade or Reese, hop in as questions occur to you. This is the client overview page where it shows all the names of the clients, and I'm currently looking at this view as what the total term assessment is. So you showed that element, the lime green tile of total term. When I'm looking at this number, what I'm learning about for clients is how stable their finances are and how much attention we need to give to planning. So I will, when I get into working with showing you the scorecard, I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. And so for each client here, I have a brand new client. This is what the page looks like when they start. I go into a prospect meeting, and back in the olden days when I'd be sitting with a notebook and pen, I'd fill 6 pages of notes saying, this is what's going on for the client, and here's this number. I'll write down $50,000, but then forget to name what it is, and all things that AI note taking can help with now. But what Elements does, it allows me to actually structure the client conversation in a way that we hit on all of the pieces, and the clients are incredibly forthcoming with their data. It's in the past, pardon the analogy, but it's like pulling teeth to get clients to share their data. But with Elements, it's just they are spilling forward because they see a container in which to put the data. So in a client meeting, I'll spend the first few minutes just chatting, getting to know them, and um, by by the time they're, warmed up a little bit, they have already mentioned a couple of financial pain points. And so when I start to share elements, I say, okay, you've mentioned a pain point. You've mentioned your mortgage. Let's get that documented. So I just pull up elements here. I go to debt, I add mortgage, and I say, okay, so tell me, what's your mortgage? And they'll either say it's $431, 235 cents, or they'll say, oh man, I don't know. It's I don't know, maybe. And so at that point, I already know, okay, these clients are going to need help with the data gathering versus these clients
Yeah.
have all the information, they give it to us. And then I can shift my conversation in a way that's customized to the client's level of financial familiarity. Um, and I'll say, okay, when did you refinance? Oh, I refinanced on May 1st, 2020. Or, oof, I don't know, it was a few years ago. I'm not really certain, but at this point, I reassure clients we're just looking for a pencil sketch. We don't need all of the fine details. We just want to get the overview of your situation. And then I can ask, okay, how long is the loan? It's a 30-year mortgage. What's your payment amount? We're paying $235 or $2,350. Great, thanks. Is that principal and interest, or does that include taxes and insurance? I don't know. So then in notes here, I say, okay, not sure if pity or just principal and interest. So I've all,
Becky, can I ask a quick question?
please,
You're showing
yes.
this. Are you generally sharing your screen with the client as you're filling this in too?
Um, Often I am. Sometimes if I have a colleague in the meeting with me, the colleague will just be having a much more natural conversation and not sharing the screen. But if I'm going to be typing and having the conversation, I just want the clients to see where I'm putting information. And if I have this up, then Wade, they will start to fill in information that I haven't asked them about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that insight. I've heard this before of it's like this getting the intake, getting the data in is always a struggle. And if we just send out hey, fill out this giant data packet, that often isn't working for people. But Elements has lended itself well to making the intake a little smoother, a little more conversational based. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely more conversational. And as I said, also clients are more forthcoming with it in
Yeah.
the conversation. So without the container to put the information in, clients are like, oh, do I want to share this? Do I not want to share this? But when there's that container and they see it, they think, oh, there's a blank space. Let me fill in that blank space. I have that information. Let me just give it to you. So I will often start with, one of those pain points like mortgage debt. And then from there, the personal financial statement just tumbles out of a client's mouth. They see, oh, that wasn't hard. That wasn't I can do this. And so if they don't know where to go yet, sometimes they'll just spill into it. Sometimes they don't know where to go. And I say, well, you have a mortgage. You also probably have a house then. So let's talk about your house. And then we can add the house and so forth. Um, so and I'll shift over to another client in a second, but once we have this personal financial statement completed, then we can continue with quantitative data analysis right there in that first meeting. Another thing I gather in a first meeting is the client's statement of financial purpose. And I really start, the question is, what's money doing for you? What's the role that money's playing in your life? And every single time it is some combination of security and freedom. Either it's all security, it's all freedom, or it's, oh, it gives me, security and safety and also opportunity, or it gives me opportunity and also security and safety. And those aren't the exact words that they use, but it is some variation of security and freedom. Uh, so as we are talking through, not only are we capturing that quantitative data, we're also capturing that statement of financial purpose. We may have learned that they are, looking to retire at age 63, so we can really quickly add a little goal here. And I need them to find out what the mortgage payment breakdown is. So I might add that really quickly as a task for them. And I'll show on it. I'll decide right now. I'm going to show you how the create a one-page plan shows up really quickly after this conversation, but then on a different client, I'll show you one that's a little bit more filled out. So we can start with just that conversation, and then we also have a takeaway for the clients immediately. This page is just showing you a really bare bones version of it, but we'll see in another client what that more complete page looks like. So just before the call, I noticed that I didn't have a demo account for an accumulator, and I wanted to make sure to do that. So I took about 5 minutes to fill in a demo account for an accumulator. So someone with student loans, mortgage, checking account, 401k, house. Incredibly simple here, just for the sake of examples, but this would have taken maybe 10 to 12 minutes to get with the client right there on a call. Once we get to that place of having the all of the net worth items, the personal financial statement items there, we then can start talking about the individual elements and really start showing clients the analysis of how they're doing with their finances. And one of the things I love about Elements that's been built out over the last couple of years is the customization that this screen allows, that we can decide how much information we want to show clients, what we want to focus on, and also what goals we want the clients to be paying attention to. So for this client who has a net worth of just shy of 300,000, household income of 95,000, and annual spending of 80,000, we're showing that their total term is 3.6. These are for folks in their early 40s. That might not be what they're looking for. And at this point, we'll explain to them, okay, what for your money to give you both that security and freedom, we really want to be pushing this number towards 30. When you get to 25, we're going to start evaluating if and when retirement is possible. But until you're a lot closer to that, we have all the information we need right here to know what your next actions are. So we don't at this point, like you said, we don't have to run the MRI or the Monte Carlo simulation for someone in this accumulation phase to know they need to save more, they need to be intentional about their spending. And they're not there yet to be ready for that retirement conversation. So once we get to this total term number, I'll pause and I'll say, okay, can you reflect back to me what you understand this number to be? And if I've done my job right, the client will say, the total term represents the number of years that my resources would last if I put all the resources in a pile and pulled out my annual spending year after year. If a client can reflect that back, then I've explained the tools to them well up to this point. I'm also then looking at this bottom row and seeing other things about the client. So total term 3.6, we want them to be moving in the direction of 30 at their age. They really ought to be at about 15. They're not, so we're going to need to do some tweaking with their saving or their earnings or other items. But I'd also heard say the client talk about, man, cash flow feels really tight. And I use this as an opportunity to validate and justify, yeah, cash flow is really tight. Your liquid term here, this is the money that's readily available to you to cover your day-to-day needs and also meet unexpected expenses. This is really low. You're going to start feeling a lot better when this gets a lot closer to 1.0 rather than zero point 0.1. So what can we do to start adjusting things for you there? And then also validating, hey, you're doing a great job with retirement savings. Part of the reason that you're, feeling so squeezed is that you have been putting so much into retirement, say. So the these other elements here, the liquid term, qualified term, real estate term, and business term, these are all what add up together to make the total term. But the balance between these actually tells us a lot about what's going on in the client's day-to-day life and where we can start reducing some of those pain points for them right off the bat.
Becky, and you're just as you've met with clients on this, do you find like that liquid term, you're kind of checking right off the gate? That seems like one of the most would be the most painful financial situation someone could be in. Their liquidity's low. So you're maybe checking there first, and then, okay, now we'll go up, I don't know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs on the other elements.
That is absolutely an approach that I do take sometimes. It really does depend on what their balance is. Some
Yeah,
people are going to come in and their liquid term is 2.3, and I'm not going to be, I might be
you're
saying,
not worried.
as you know, you're doing great.
Yeah,
And then move on from there. But yeah, I like that approach, that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that moving from left to right, it's what's most readily available to meet your needs
yeah.
now and in retirement, that qualified term being those retirement assets. Um, let's see where to go from here. Will this middle row, the cash flow row, then we can talk about, okay, your debt rate, you're spending 32% of your income, that's going towards your student loan, that's going towards your mortgage. That's, is what it is. It's a little bit higher than target, but not so much that we're worried about it. Your burn rate, how much you're spending, 53%. That's right in the range of what we'd expect. And your savings rate, that's a little bit low. And that's what's reflecting down here in the lower liquid term, is that you've not been building your savings in that area. So I try not to overwhelm clients off the bat. So much data and what to do with it. But it's really right off the bat that getting everything into the personal financial statement and then showing clients how important that annual spending number is. Because I think it's a lot easier for clients to get to, okay, what's the balance on my mortgage? What's the balance on my student loans than it is for them to know exactly how much they're spending. And so I have had people say to me just in the last month, oh, you don't really need my spending, do you? I'm like, I really do. Let me show you why. So if you're spending $8,000 a year, which you're not, um, you're we're ready to have that conversation about retirement. You're at that above 30 total term. If instead you're spending 80,000 a year, which is much more realistic, you're nowhere near. And if you're spending 120,000 a year, we have some real problems that we need to address. Um, so it's allows the clients to see that one lever, how it changes directly all of these numbers.
It's
Um,
such a cool way to look at that, Becky. I'm thinking about our common, we always use this medical analogy about elements as like a blood test or the vital signs. But what you just showed there with spending is it's almost like this won't be a perfect connection, but it's like I don't know how many minutes you exercise or how bad your eating is. And it's like, okay, look at your blood markers. Also, if you keep eating that way, it just gets way, way worse. Or it could be better if you flip the sign there.
Right.
Becky, do you mind if I add something just real briefly to that point?
Please do. You're the expert here, Reese.
It sounds like you've become the expert, man. I'm liking this. I'm liking watching how much you know about this. It's great. But the philosophy of the like when I was trying to decide which vital signs to use, um, there's a lot of different ratios you could come up with. Everyone here could probably imagine 11 different ones than we came up with. But the one thing that was I used this inside of my own RIA over the course of maybe 4 years without software,
Mhm.
just to as a way to have conversations with people during their meetings. And I was using a spreadsheet to track the vital signs. But the denominator of spending, to make Wade's point, just to kind of connect the dots here, it was always the main problem with finances anyway. At the end of the day, when you were talking to somebody, it was always like, it's always at the end of the day about how much they want to spend, that they're not spending, that they
Mm,
want to spend more, or that they want to spend less. But it's rarely that they want to spend the same that they're spending right now.
right.
And so it's kind of like if you don't anchor the vital signs with that basic reality
Mhm.
in the denominator of the term elements, that bottom row has the personal spending in every denominator. Because it's
Right.
like these buckets are very subjective. They're
Right.
not very precise, despite the Monte Carlo simulation we can run for you. You're spending, I mean, you're one Mexico trip away from blowing your uh, numbers out of the water this year, right? And we all want that trip. We all want to go to Mexico. And so it's a problem to like have a financial plan, in my view, that models so much certainty, which is a Monte Carlo simulation, when we all know that personal spending number is complete bullshit, right? And so it's kind of like, how are we gonna have a conversation with someone about personal spending that's flexible, that dynamically repopulates their term elements? So if you want to have a hard conversation or an optimistic conversation or just a real honest conversation, it really does depend on how they view their current spending habits and how those are going to change in the future. And it's really good to bring that home all the time. So I don't know that it was the only denominator you could have put there, but I liked it, and it's really been pretty durable for our customers in terms of people relating to that. So if you do, then this might be a type of conversation that you could add to your, mix. But anyway, I liked that, and I'm glad that you noted that today, Wade, because that's like a full circle of 4 years of, me thinking about that. Anyway.
That's you when you mentioned Reese, the clients who want to know if they can spend more. I've shared information about this client with Elements tons and did an Elements in Real Life YouTube about it a couple years ago. But a client who said, I open Elements and the worry just disappears. And and a different time he said, Elements saved me. Now he's a little hyperbolic. And one thing that I'm really sad about is I actually don't get to have as many conversations with him now because of Elements. Because it used to be, are you sure? Are you
You
sure?
had to reassure him more
Yeah,
then.
I had to reassure him. Now, what he will do, so I think this is data from, yeah, this is from a couple years ago. But what he's done is he decided he does not want the value of his house in his scorecard. So we don't have his house in there, and he has his spending. Let me just refresh real quick. So he has his annual spending in there, and his total terms 32 with a huge amount of liquid and about an equivalent amount of qualified. Um, he wanted to know, hey, can we take out $50,000 to go do these trips we want to do? And it used to be that I would say, yes, you can. Let me show you your Monte Carlo. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Now he'll say, hey, I went in and I just really quickly changed my elements number down to 470 in this one account. I just lost my number. There we go. Um, to reflect if I had spent that extra 50,000. Um, and it showed that my total term went down from 32 to 31. And since I'm 75, I'm really comfortable with that. My age 75 plus 31 years, that takes me to, 106. I think I'm going to be okay. And so he'll just, instead of asking me for that reassurance, he'll end up telling me how he used elements to model the reassurance for himself. Can I get a gut check on that? Yes, you're right. You can spend the money, and then he'll go and spend the money. So for that retiree use case, I always fall back on this client who it just made such an enormous difference for his quality of life and the amount of sleep that he's getting because he's not worrying anymore.
I love that story. I think it highlights too just it's like you make decisions off finances, or as advisors, we help people make decisions. And you can do that with a projection-based approach. And there's definitely times when that makes sense. Elements is just a simplified way to do that by looking at, well, where are we at now? And like what you just did is like scenario planning, right? We just ran a different scenario, but it didn't need to be super robust and change it's just, well, what happens if we move 50,000 out? Okay, that number changed like not that much and it doesn't matter. So we can make that decision. And we hear that story a lot. It was a really good one to highlight for us today, Becky.
I think it's also like that side of sometimes that 50K really makes a substantial difference in how someone responds. And then you're able to just quickly kind of get a gauge because it does in a faster amount of time as to how people react. Because I've seen people on 6 months of liquidity feel as optimistic as other people might feel when they have 3 years, right? Or th three months to 6 months makes a huge difference in the way someone feels about whether they have real estate equity or not. It's like, I'm really building equity, aren't I? I've heard that several times. It's just interesting how presenting numbers in a different way and slowing down the conversation can reveal something that you weren't aware of, maybe in the other process of projection-based planning, because while that one does have value, the feedback loop is just less fast. It's slower. It's a lot slower feedback loop in terms of the client giving you a response to what they now understand. Would you agree with that, Becky?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the data. I'm always talking to clients about quantitative data and qualitative data. And the qualitative data I can collect while working with elements and clients is far faster than the qualitative data that, what are their emotions like? How are they responding to the data, to the numbers? How are they responding to the scenarios? That qualitative data comes back more quickly with elements because clients understand it. When they approach a full cash flow based Monte Carlo planning behemoth of software, they can be reassured that we've thought of everything if we walk them through every data point, but they're not giving us that. We're not getting the reps of feedback from them, like you said, Reese, that the feedback loop
Right.
is
And
not
I think this is a really key point and probably way I think the best clientele is a clientele that's like a little bit more autonomous, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. Not so codependent on the advisor, right? For the day-to-day market movements, for example, would be a good specific example, right? You don't want to be fielding 80 calls or 150 calls when there's a market shift. So we spend time training clients on a philosophy around investment management, empowering them with information so they're not reactive. We give them, evidence that helps them self, kind of relax during those times. But when it comes to financial planning, I think that's one of the challenges, that or one of the good things that we're doing is we're helping people internally sort of reason a little bit with some numbers they can make sense of that didn't have a lot of inputs. And the other model, I think you're really adding precision, you're adding like an excess amount of confidence, but I don't think you get the same internal autonomy when you show someone a projection as you do when you show them a simple set of ratios. Because a simple set of ratios they can make sense of, they can self-reason with, and it doesn't make them less dependent on you as an advisor in general, but I do think it reduces the type of calls that you receive. But you will get the good ones. You'll get the ones where they're contemplating a big decision, which is, I think, where you really want to be mostly involved for your practice efficiency reasons.
Absolutely. And when you said, the autonomous clients, I'm reminded of a client who a few times now has called me and asked me a question. I said, okay, well, let's just confirm that your elements numbers are up to date. She said, well, they are. And I'm like, oh, you're maintaining this. And she said, yeah, I look at it every week. I'm like, that's fantastic. So the most recent call was, I think I'm going to quit my job. I said, okay. And she said, is that okay? I said, is your elements up to date? And she said, yeah. I said, yeah, you can quit your job. Wait, I mean, you can't retire. There will be something in the future. And I know because your liquid term is at 7 and your qualified term is at 25, I know that you have that capacity to make that gut-based choice. And I've been working with you for 20 years, so I also know a lot more about you too. But it was just so lovely to have her say, oh, yeah, Elements is up to date. I'm like, great. So we're on the same page. Let's make a decision really quickly. And that was another really validating moment of Elements made it so much easier for her to have confidence in my confident response.
Wow,
Uh,
that's a good way to put it.
and I
Yeah.
think, Reese, that's your point of like the precision of financial planning. They can have confidence in that, but they're still going to question all of the inputs, whereas Elements is so simple that they don't need to question the inputs.
Well, I think the one thing that you did there, though, is you actually had the confidence to be able to answer the question efficiently, briefly, with confidence, right? Which is, I think, a great place to be in a world where AI is going to be consolidating a lot of the information food chain for
Mhm.
clients that are just trying to get information. But I don't think AI will make it easier to make decisions for most of the people that we're already delegating to advisors for this whole topic, right, to begin with. So clients you
Mhm.
have, I just think you're going to be able to, if you can build a business that meets people when the question is most pressing, and you're going to get 90% of the value that you can offer to your client. You'll get almost all the retention, but you're going to have way more clients and you'll be actually able to meet them at that moment of decision, which is the thing I think they care about more than the weather kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They want that guidance quickly when they need it. And I think it's cool that you're able to, you didn't mention that that was pretty brilliant on your end though, too, okay, of being able to do that quickly. That's nice.
They always say that the advisor confidence comes from reps. I've been around the block a couple of times with this. So,
Right.
uh, yeah, but the elements being the tool that allows me to, I have the blood tests. I have up-to-date blood tests. I
Yeah.
don't need to say, hey, let's go run your labs so that I can just help you decide whether or not you can leave this job that's incredibly draining to you that you've been talking about leaving for 7 years. Like I don't need to run labs to see that because the labs are already up to date with elements.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
So what else can we show our audience?
I, there's a bunch of Q&A that's in there too, but I don't know,
Okay.
Wade, we only have 10 minutes left to the hour. I
Oh,
don't know
I
if
did
we
not
can
see
hit
how many
those.
Q&As there are. Okay, Wade, take it away with the Q&As.
I'm looking for the Q&A, Reese. Where do you see it?
Maybe I got it because of the link you sent me. Because remember how I joined, I was Wade Anderson at the beginning?
Yeah. Maybe
I could go
Sarah, can
down
you
them. Do you
help
want me to
us
go
real
ahead and
quick?
serve them up? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the first question in the Q&A, and wait, if you maybe there's just under that more section at the very bottom of your toolbar.
I'm looking. Oh, okay, I do see it. Thank you.
No worries. But to tee it up, the
Oh, I can
first
kick it.
question. Yeah,
I
you
see
pick
him
it up.
now. I can take it, Sarah. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Um, did Elements go out of business? What happened, and what is Elements today? So Elements was sold. The assets for Elements was sold in December. We were a venture-backed business, started in 2021. If you're familiar with the venture capital ecosystem, it's a very power law-based business where it's a lot about pushing for outlier outcomes. In a lot of ways, Elements was not an outlier, massive, big outcome. It ended up being a really good piece of software for hundreds of advisors, but not one that was going to become a billion-dollar business. And so at some point, it made sense for the existing investors, which were venture capitalists, to sell the business. Reese and I, who really believed in the business or believed in the product and the tool, we loved the methodology. We led the buying group in purchasing the assets. So we're the primary owners and runner and operators of the business today. And we never had any outage at all during that whole process. So software's continued to run. Second question, does Elements have any upcoming integrations, such as with CRMs, Jump, custodians, etc.? Yeah, I actually have, uh, let me share my screen. This is definitely a big part of where we're going with Elements. Reese, can you give me a thumbs up? You can see my screen again.
You got it.
Okay. So, like I mentioned, we're doing a lot of product investment this year and hopefully going forward. Uh, on the immediate roadmap is we have this new estate status element. So this is going to go up next to the insurance rate element, and it will track things around someone's estate status. It'll be customizable. So as an advisor, you can decide, yeah, I want to track power of attorney for each person. I want to track a will or hey, in this client's case, that just doesn't matter. Um, you can also, and this will come out shortly after state status, um, we're also going to allow for a lot more customization of the elements. So what we believe Elements is it's a really nice framework and methodology for having these simplifying these conversations and these decision points. But we've had a lot of feedback from our customers around, hey, this business term element, for example, it just doesn't make sense for the households I work with. Can I turn it off? So we're going to allow some customizations like that at the household level. So you can come in and then you can turn off elements that don't apply, as well as even rename some elements. If, for example, we have a firm that they work with only dentists and they want to rename business term to practice term to be a little more closer to their type of clientele that they're working with. And then on this question, which was about integrations, connect to more tools, we have a bunch of work going on this. So we are working actively right now on the orange boxes. So this is WealthBox, Redtel, Salesforce, HubSpot, and Claude Cowork. That one actually is very close to finish. We'll be able to launch that one soon. So you'll be able to pull that into your AI tooling. That will likely be how we work with note takers. I know Jump is pretty high on people's list, and we would love to get that one on the list as well. Some that we could use some help with is we would love to integrate with some of the other financial planning tools. It is a very common use case. In fact, Becky, I was going to ask you, what do you use? Elements is your scorecard-based planning tool, maybe call it that. Do you use a projection-based planning tool as
Yeah, we
well?
use Right Capital.
Okay, which is very common and I think is part of the XYPN package. Um, Please tell your planning tool rep that you want an integration to Elements. We would be happy to build it. We see our tools as very complementary to those tools. We just haven't been able to quite make our way into the right people there. And then live today, we have Plaid, Morningstar, and Zapier, which empowers a lot of different workflows for people. Um, I'll just keep going through questions here. Will there be an app available for both Apple and Android? Today we have an app for Apple, or for iOS specifically. We don't have an app in Android, and it's not currently on the roadmap. We do have a mobile capabilities for Android, though. So we spent a lot of time building mobile responsiveness into the app. So that is how we work with Android today. We able to reduce the font size of the statement of financial purpose on the one-page plan. Not today, but I will take that and put that as something we can look into. That seems like a nice customization that we'd be happy to look into. Are there any plans to add a feature that would allow advisors to download or print the one-page plan as a properly formatted 8.5 by 11? Absolutely. We have seen this one a lot, and that one is on the planned roadmap for us that we will get to hopefully in the next quarter. How is the client messaging feature documented for compliance purposes? Um, this will depend on, there's a few different things we've done for firms to make it easy for them to pull in client messaging. If you want to reach out to me directly, we can look at what would be good for your compliance setup. What we've done before is we can just stream the messages basically for archival purposes. Will Elements remain an option as an included financial planning tool in XYPN Sapphire? I'll have to have Sarah answer that one.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
not quite sure, but I'll find the answer out and then anonymous, if you want to let me know your name, then I can reach out after the webinar.
and then we have, what is the upcoming 12th element? That's the estate status element. Can you discuss the complementarity of elements with Right Capital or other similar planning tools? I was watching the presentation, think that's just what I use Right Capital for.
So I'll
Becky,
hop
do you
into
actually
that
mind
one.
taking that one?
Yeah, I'll hop on that. So the elements is quick, it's easy for clients to understand, and there are some clients whose brains work really well with the scorecard. Right Capital, it takes a little bit more time to build out. Elements we build out in 10 to 15 minutes right in meeting. Right Capital, it might take us an hour, hour and a half to build out a client's plan with their data. And it is much more integrated, much more involved. If I'm looking at several different scenarios, I'm going to be on the retirement page on Right Capital, and I'm going to be toggling on and off a lot of different things and showing the impact of each of those. For a really quick question, though, elements, Right Capital's useful but overkill in my perspective, from my perspective. So I will hop between the two regularly depending on the needs of the client.
Awesome. Thanks, Becky. Okay, I don't see any other questions. I think we got each of them answered here, and I think that about wraps us up. If you're in XYPN, it's a 60-second sign up. You can go to getelements.com/XYPN. We have a purpose-built landing page for you there. You can choose the pricing tier. Recommend starting, just try it at the free tier, see if this vibes with you. It's not for every advisor. I think Elements is a methodology, it's a philosophy, it's an approach as much as it is a tool. But as you've heard from Becky here today, there are hundreds of advisors that have adopted this as kind of the key language, the way they communicate with clients. And we would love to have you try it out. Let us know what you think, and we're happy to continue to make adjustments and make this work for people. And here's my email if you want to reach out. I'm happy to walk through Elements one-on-one as well. My calendar link, as well as you can email me at wade@getelements or wade.anderson@getelements.com.
Thanks, Becky. So great.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
thank
having me.
you.
Yeah, thank you, Becky, Wade, Reese. It's a pleasure to see your face on my screen.
Hey, how's
And
it going?
yeah, hey. And then to all of you who joined us live, just thank you so much for spending this past hour with us. Um, really good information here. And yeah, if you're interested in Elements, if you're an XYPN member, then you can sign up from that link that Wade shared or in that benefit page in the XYPN member portal. If you aren't an XYPN member and you're interested in joining membership, then by all means, schedule a call with us. We love to chat with you. We love connecting with you, and we're happy to review some of your tech stack that you're using today and what the potential cost savings could be. But other than that, I release you to go about the rest of your day. And Wade, Becky, Reese, thank you again for just spending the past hour with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, likewise. Bye bye.
Bye.